Good evening and welcome to another session in our Nav Life series, Navigating Life. We have been having these sessions now from pre-COVID, actually. So we welcome you and we ask that you would participate with us as we examine another area of challenge in our lives. The Nav Life series really is about trying to help individuals to better cope with life's unfolding events. I'm Trevor Smith and I'll be your host tonight, a facilitator. And this series is brought to you with the compliments of the St. Andrew Church of Christ. I'm going to just ask you if you just bow with me as we ask God's blessings on our time together. Almighty God, we just give you thanks, Lord, that we have this opportunity to share and to come together to examine challenges as we navigate through life. We ask, Lord, that you would guide the proceedings. Help, Lord, that we will be able to find solutions to issues as we cope with life. We pray all of these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So I'm flying solo tonight. I am your, I'll be facilitating the process and want to jump right in just to alert you that tonight's session will be, very interactive. We definitely would like for you to participate. Let me just record this as well. And I would like to share my screen. I think we're ready to go. All right. Okay, so dealing with difficult people. If this is the first time, by the way, that you're joining us, welcome. If you happen to get some value from it, please share. We use the same link every first and third Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Jamaica time, which is UTC -5. So let's go. Okay, hello, Sherry. Sherry was one of our earliest participants. Right, so, yeah, just getting the spotlight up, and then I can. Right, I'm ready to go. Okay, so dealing with difficult people. I want to ask you to do me a favor just before we actually jump right in. I want you to think about people in your life, okay? So think about people in your life. You're in a plaza and you spot someone you know going into a store. Is there someone that you would definitely go into the store to greet and to connect with them? Can you think of anybody in your life where if you go into a plaza, you see them, they haven't seen you, but you have seen them, say, hey, and then you make a point to go and connect. Anybody can think of anybody in your life that would evoke that kind of response from? You don't have to put up your hand yet or open your mic yet, but I want you to be thinking about that. Yes? All right. Okay. I want you to shift now to continue to look at the people you know, etc. And you are in this plaza and you see someone who you know.
Evening.
and they have not seen you, and you make sure that they don't see you. Can you think of anybody along that line? Yes? Go ahead, Rev.
The response you're evoking is that the person whom you see is going to give you a negative response as what you're as opposed to the positive response you're expecting.
Well, I just want to know if there's anybody that, because it's going to move into what we're talking about. So we have people in our lives that if we as I said, if I go into a plaza, they haven't seen us, but we have seen them, and some of us will gravitate towards one set of people, who we want to connect with or whatever we anticipate. Yes, as you said, that may be a positive scenario. But in another scenario, you definitely don't make the effort to go and connect. And so I don't know how you want to classify the second group, but sometimes in that second group would be people that we classify as difficult people. The relationship here is not so right. And so we actually avoid those persons. Just a little warm up. Just wanted to sort of get you on a page. So what is our context today? What, the agenda. So one of the contexts is that there is a challenge with some individuals. Not all relationships go well. And so in some instances, we have relationships that are not going the way that we really want. And sometimes we classify the individuals who evoke that kind of response from us as being a difficult person. I want to discuss a different perspective. I also want to look at a completely different approach to this whole question of difficult persons. And while we will have open discussion as we go along, towards the end, I really want us to look at some of the challenges that you might be having and just let the dialogue go where it wants to go. All right. So not so much difficult. I just don't feel like talking at the time. Okay, Val, I agree. Yeah, so sometimes it's not that you really have any problem with the person. You just don't feel like connecting right then. But as I said, that was just a little teaser. All right, so let's look at the context. That there are sometimes in our lives individuals that we just don't seem to be able to see eye to eye on many issues, or any issue at all. Or, sometimes, I don't know if anybody's not Jamaican on it, but we say, our spirit don't take the person, right? Or they drive me up a wall. So there can be different degrees to which we have encounters that don't work the way that we want. Or sometimes we just believe that this person is arrogant and pompous, and they're sneaky, they're whatever it is, I don't know. There are different reasons why we take the leap to classify this individual as a difficult person, right? And so what we want to look at then is to move from that place. Assume that this is something that you are conscious of, that you might have used the label, or you might have it in the back of your mind that, well, John or Mary, we don't take tea. I can't take tea with them. So I want to look at a different perspective. And the first step is to look at the question of difficult people or a difficult person. And so I want to edit the phrase. And I want to suggest that we change our mindset. And a lot of the work that we do in terms of navigating life is to talk about mindset. Mindset is so critical. So I want to change our mindset by not thinking about a difficult person, but look at difficult situations. And this is fundamental. This very sentence, this act right here now, to just cross out person and replace it with situation makes a huge difference. So what we want to look at is to learn to separate the behavior. Go back over that. That is the action from the person doing it. That's fundamental to having better relations and avoiding this concept of a difficult person. Yes. I just want to pause here a little bit if anybody wants to step in, because this is really the crux of the matter. If we can separate the behaviors that we have issues with as against talking about the person being difficult. Yes? Any input here? We can move forward, but this is a fundamental point, right? Look at the behaviors, look at the action, and not label the individual as being difficult. All right, so let's move forward. Let me give you an example. So one of your less favored, this is one of the individuals that you wouldn't rush to go and make sure that you connect with them. Say, hey, I saw you, and I, thought I just come and connect again. If this is not one of those persons, and here you are making your presentation, important meeting, and you're making your point, you have a presentation you're making, and the person puts up their hand and they say, hey, Trevor, and they make a point. And your response to their comment is that, man, look at that, I don't know what to do because they're always negative, always fighting against me, I can't do anything right for this person. So you have a negative thing. You're really annoyed, very annoyed that they could make this point. So that's one person. On another occasion, you're making a presentation again. Your best friend, puts up their hand and makes a similar point, And of course, you rationalize it that, okay, my friend is embellishing, helping me to get across my ideas. And I really appreciate my friend's support. So what I'm saying is that our response often is colored by our relationship. Yes? So it could be the very same sentence, the very same, input for your less favored person as against your dear friend, but we respond differently. In one case, we get upset. In the other case, we are saying, yeah, thanks, I appreciate really your support. And so the challenge that comes from this is that once we start to label individuals, once we start to respond on the basis of the person and not necessarily what it is that is being done or what it is that is being said, we start to go down a cul-de-sac. We have a problem in the sense that we're not really relating to the specific incident, the specific behavior, but we are coloring it on the basis of preconceived notions. And that's not healthy for, critical thinking is not healthy for healthy relationships. We actually are boxing ourselves in a corner. All right, so let me, go ahead, Ray.
Am I hearing this just to be saying is like a container, the outside is dirty, and you assume that whatever is in it is also dirty.
That's another way of putting it. Yes. I like the clarity. Yes. So yeah, it is, but in a practical way, what happens is that we set up ourselves to judge from whatever it is the individual, and we know it. All right. So let us be real. So we work with a group of persons, and Trevor puts up his hand to make a comment, and we basically could, be his puppet and say the words, because we know that maybe not exact words, but we know that that is what he's going to say, and this is what this, so we actually presume a lot in terms of putting labels on or expecting things from a particular individuals. Yeah? However, and this is the key tonight, is that if we can make a dramatic change in our interpersonal relationships, if we just constantly train ourselves to separate the actions from the individual. Look at the behavior, look at what is being said, look at whatever action is being undertaken at a particular point in time, look at that and deal with that as against the history and the whatever it is that has happened before. Because at any point in time, we can actually change our behavior. Something new can come from us. That's a suggestion. And someone might justifiably say, but then we are giving away the advantage of history. The fact that I have known that Trevor is going to say this kind of thing is valuable. I shouldn't just throw that away. I hear that. But what I'm saying is, when you preclude any other behavior than the history, you're putting yourself in a corner. You're limiting your options. That's what I'm saying. So open your mind to the fact that today, yes, the first in history, he might actually say something differently or respond in another way. So go back again to this idea of separating the behavior from the person. What it means, like in our example, is that I ought to put myself in a position of being able to objectively listen to comments. That's it. What is this less favored person saying? Is it helpful? Or do I automatically shut down their comments because we don't get along as well as I would like? So when I have that objective approach to listening and interacting with others, it gives me options. I can choose. When I limit myself to knee-jerk reactions based on the history and the relationship, then I'm limiting. I just don't have the options. My only response can be to be mad and to reject the comments. I don't know if this is going anywhere for you, but it's a start. And the fundamental premise here is that we need to open our minds. Someone that has a mic open, want to speak? Hello? Somebody had a mic open? Or I see a hand up. Okay, go ahead.
I totally agree with you. But it is a very difficult thing to do at any given point in time. One has to have some gumption and to be prepared to accept the negative first of all, and to immediately dismiss it and see the positive. As I said before, I agree with you, but it's a challenge to really at any moment make that switch and see the positive right away after a protracted period of negativity.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I hear you, but also we can't assume that it's going to be a negative. That's the key. The key is that we have to have an open mind. And it could be that our less favored person is actually making a comment that is not required, is undesirable, in which case, again, we could put ourselves in a position to respond, but it shouldn't be on autopilot. That's the basic point. We cannot function on autopilot. It doesn't help us in terms of our interpersonal relations. All right, so we have said that. So what are some of the objectives or some of the alternatives? That's where I want to go. Consider this. Once we label the person as a difficult person, subconsciously, what we are doing is creating an environment in which we only have negative interactions with them, because that label actually is like sets up a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah, because our body language or whatever it is that we deal with it invites that kind of response. And so that's the danger that we have, is that we can't interpret things coming from that individual in a positive light. It's challenging for us because we have colored it in a way that makes it hard for us to be able to hear them differently, because we know that we listen through filters, right? So we, the very same phrase or sentences coming from one individual, you could hear and interpret it and understand it totally differently if it came from somebody else. And so that's the danger that we have, that when we start to talk about difficult people or a difficult person, we set up ourselves to only have negative interactions with them. And that's not so good. All right, so let us move forward. So I'm suggesting a 7-point alternative to this idea of labeling an individual as a difficult person. How else can we go about it? Well, the first one we talk about is that shift the focus, shift the terminology, because believe me, subconsciously, we know that, again, the neuroscience suggests that we've driven a lot more at the subconscious level than the conscious level. So we start to at least work there to say we're looking at a difficult situation and not a difficult person. So if we're dealing with a situation, then we need to take time to identify what actions, what behavior coming from this person do I find upsetting? What is it about them? What actions, what is it specifically am I seeing that is not pleasing to me? What causes the upset? And I think if we work at it, we could find some way. And if we can't find some way, then it means that we are biased and that the upset that we have is strictly out of bias. So if you can't go and identify specific actions, a specific behavior, a specific incident where something happened that didn't go the way that you want, maybe you're just biased. Maybe you're just biased. Hard pill to swallow, but that's really the truth. You should be able to go back and say, okay, fine. He plays with his nose, and I don't like people that play with their nose. Maybe, I don't know. That is an action that upsets me. Try to find out, what is it really about this individual that I find upsetting? And so let us move beyond it. I don't like him. I just don't like him. There's just something about him or her that I can't take. That's not healthy, honestly. And as we learn to love our neighbors and so on, that is not certainly not a Christian mindset. So we have to move beyond this whole idea of, I just don't like them. Yeah. What is it that we're talking about? Narrow it down to specifically what they do. What they do. That's what it is. Right? That's the whole key. What is it that they do that you don't like? Yeah. Bear in mind, if you can't do this, what it is that they do, then you're guilty of bias. Straight up. if you just can't find any reason, what it is that upsets you, that, that it's not in keeping with your values, whatever it is that you find that is off-putting, it needs to be narrowed down to some behavior, some action. Otherwise, it's just straight bias. And you must know why you want to be biased. All right. So again, we're open to discussion. All right. So reflect on why that particular behavior upsets you, right? Go ahead, Sherry.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Smith, for number two, you mentioned move beyond I don't like him or her. And you said that if one cannot identify the reason why um you don't like the person, then you're biased. But how is it possible that it's not you don't like the person, but there's something about this person that why I don't want to be around him or her, but you can't it, and you might not even have a conversation with the person, but your spirit just don't want to be around this person. Is that even possible? Because you say if you're not identify, you're biased that way too. Is that not possible too? Ask it.
I would call that a bias. Because what is it? What is it that you don't like their color? You don't like their what? What is it
Maybe
about
the
them?
person come around you just
I don't know.
I'm just asking, can it be possible?
I hear you, and there's no, remember some of these things, there's no right or wrong, whatever. I understand what you're saying, that there might be something you can pinpoint, but where I'm going is that there is a significant value to be gained from examining why it is. Why is it that you don't want to be around? What is it about the individual? I hear you, and it's possible because we're human, and yes, they might feel uncomfortable. Sometimes people talk about a creepy person, and so that's an issue that we have to look at. Whether that is you call them creepy because of some preconceived notion that you have about somebody who looks a particular way. I don't know, or maybe there's a sixth sense in you that picks it up. All of that is possible. I'm not moving out of the table. What I'm saying though, generally, or as a rule, I would suggest that we spend some time to just examine it. What is it really about this individual? And maybe we are closing doors on relationships that could be positive, or shutting people out willy-nilly without really examining why we're shutting them out. And that's a problem. Let me share something with you. All right, okay, some participants. All right, so I will go afterwards. I think two persons have hands raised. And okay, Sherry, I think I can lower yours. All right. Rev, I'm gonna ask that way, Pili, and let Pili go before you.
Go ahead.
Yes, good night. Personally, I agree with what you said about separating the action from the person. But even though I expressed to this person that you are not necessarily what you do, and that I know that you have good intentions and so on, they still react badly to whatever I am saying to them. And it's like they're constantly on the defensive, but technically speaking, I'm the one who should be on the defensive about things when it comes to them because of what I've been through with this person in the past. But it's hard for me to look past it when they themselves are dwelling on it so constantly and constantly bringing up the fact that they did something wrong and I did something wrong, and it always goes back to those same issues. Although I'm telling them we can move past this if we get the proper assistance with moving past it, but they refuse to actually do anything to go past it. So it's stunting the growth of the relationship. In fact, it's causing it to regress more than progress. And I'm not sure how much longer this whole circle can continue.
Okay, all right. I hear the issue. It's a little bit beyond where we want to go this evening, because it has issues related to forgiveness and unforgiveness, and how we treat things that have happened to us in the past.
Yeah.
We have had series around, the whole issue of forgiveness is a major continuing issue. Huge
Yeah.
problems in relationships when people can't let go of the past. But it's not, it requires more time
Yeah.
than we want, because I really just want to look at. So that's, I suppose, that's a difficult situation in a sense. But it requires some more dialogue. And as a matter of fact, it would, to resolve that, one would have to go back again to incident by incident to find out where we are. And what it means is that you probably, the both of you probably have moved past incidents without having resolved them. So they are still lingering with either one or both of your minds. And that's what this problem is that there is a situation that was not dealt with and buried, finalized. And so some of those things are just keep coming back. And maybe what you need to do then is to go back into the history, piece by piece, and look at what it is that we haven't resolved. Otherwise, it will keep coming back again. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thanks. All right, Rev, go.
And to add to that, there could be the possibility of us mirroring what they are seeing from us. That keeps it going. So the person might not necessarily be at the moment a negative person, but because we are mirroring what we think they are supposed to be, and this can also create a block.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's true. Thank you so much.
Right. Yeah, it goes back to the self-fulfilling prophecy issue that, we expect this, and so it just keep happening. There was this book that, games people play. That's part of it as well. That's the relationship has gone up along a particular line. I'm not saying I don't know you, Phyllis, so I'm not talking about you. But we have situations in which that's the kind of nature. That's the connect. That it is all, so it's a kind of push at each other, and that's basically the glue that's holding the relationship together, in the sense that there's a connect. So yeah, some relationships actually are functioned around that kind of I don't know what they call it, poking at each other. It's like a game. No harm necessarily, but we keep going back over the same things. All right. So number 3, reflect on why the behavior upsets you. All right. We can find out what it is. I just list some of them here, but this is by no means a complete listing. Maybe the person betrayed your trust, they're running counter to your values. And the question that you have to ask, though, is it your own bias or prejudice that is at the root of the problem? That's the key that you have to remember. Oh, I'm reminded I was going to share something. All right, thanks, Sherry. Yeah, I was doing a workshop, team workshop, team dynamics, high performance team situation. And in the workshop, there were 2 individuals. There was a lady and a gentleman. And if one opens a mouth, the other one says something negative. And they were just at it the whole work. So I'm saying, okay, fine. I am here to solve problems. So I asked them individually, so what's happening? I noticed that you have this problem here. And the young lady says, he's too arrogant, full of himself. I asked the gentleman, what's the issue? He came in and he said, good morning. And, two or three other persons said good morning. She didn't say good morning. That's the foundation of the thing. She does think he looks arrogant. So when he come in, he's telling her good morning. He picks up now that who you think you are, that everybody else can say good morning, you don't have any manners. So you're saying that, but that sounds like petty, that sounds like prep school. Yeah, but these are adult professionals working, and it would have impacted the relationships. And so, I said, okay, fine, tell you what, you can see how foolish what you're doing is. So the homework is you're going to connect, talk to each other, and resolve the matter. And of course, the next session, they're saying, yeah, this is my new best friend, whatever. Obviously not full best friend, but at least they had resolved the silliness. But I'm just saying to you that if you understand that a lot of that situation could go on and on until it actually becomes hardcore. Those are some of the things that happen, is that you just have a perception. That's all it is. She had a perception that this guy believes he's arrogant. Not taking him on. I mean, he, full of himself. Petty. I brought a simple petty situation into the discussion because I wanted to let you know that that's a part of human interaction. That sometimes you'll be surprised at why it is that people are not talking to each other. You'll be surprised. All right. Let's look at number 4. All right. So here's a question. I want you to look at, having done the due diligence, right? Where you have gone to see, okay, fine, I'm really not happy with Trevor. I tend to have difficult situations around Trevor. What I want you to do is to recall whether those behaviors, those actions from Trevor, if you have experienced them from anybody else. So you have done the work and you have gone and you have identified that Trevor does A, B, C, and I don't like A, B, or C. I want you to reflect on whether you have experienced any A, B, or C from anybody else. And what is your reaction? What has, does it cause you to react in the same way that you react to Trevor? That's a big question. So how do you feel when someone else did A, B, or C? Big question, big question for us. And so that's really where the question is if this behavior is not unique to Trevor, when it happens from someone else, how does it make you feel? Do you respond differently? Those are questions that you have to ask. All right, we're gonna run through them and then we open up the floor for discussion. But you can stop me at any time, of course. All right. Here is a really, really difficult one. Spare no effort to see if the behavior that is upsetting you, those A, B, C that Trevor does, that turn you off, that make you, believe you me, want to go up a wall, whatever it is that you can, just look and see if by chance, those behaviors are actually a part of your makeup that you have been fighting to correct. Look again to see that A. Can I be a little crass, please? Dig in your nose. Yes? It's something that you have been fighting. Parents from a long time tell you, don't dig your nose in public. And so you fight, but every now and then it happens to you. But when you see Trevor doing it. You're saying, man, look at that big man. He can't dig boo in public. Terrible. And you really come down hard because what? Because you are guilty of the very same thing. And so we tend to complain about things that we do ourselves. You know, you remember the finger pointing, the four-finger point? Yeah, when you point at somebody, four pointing back at you. And it is in those situations that you really can get very mad. Very, very, very mad. There was a sports writer, right, who used to come down very, very hard on any sports person, you know, who choked, who had an opportunity to do something and just didn't perform as well during the period because of the stress, etc. And the history has revealed that as a young person, this sports writer actually choked and, you know, had a situation that he should have done well and ended up crying like a baby. And that weakness is something that he didn't want to see in anybody else because it pointed back to his history. And so that's part of what it is, that sometimes, you know, we are so mad at ourselves that we cannot get rid of this issue. And when we see it in others, sometimes then the problem is that we are as mad at, we're more mad with ourselves than with them. Yeah. So the annoyance and our response is really more at ourselves. Although, of course, we don't live it like that. And maybe sometimes we even forget that this is really us looking at a mirror, a problem that we have that we can't deal with. So we have to be careful again. Why is it that we get so mad when this person does this thing? So much so that kind of write them off. We don't want to deal with them. These are difficult people. These are people that I need to keep away from because I get so mad. They drive me crazy, run me up a wall. Be careful that the shunning of the individual and your, you know, response to them and your thought processes are not underpinned by some deep inside, you know, internal challenges that you have, that emotions, your failure to deal with the issue, or, you know, maybe something that happened in the past, something that really brings strong emotions to you. Look and see if that is not a part of the problem. All right, I'm going to pause there again and input. Anybody can identify with this possibility that you could actually be mad more at yourself. And it could be also like with your children, etc., where you want, you see them walking in a path that you did, and, you know, you saw the feelings there, and you don't want them to go down that road, and so you overreact, maybe, or maybe it's not overreact, but you react negatively. All right. Any questions, comments on that? All right, let's move, and then we open up the floor to discussion. All right. So the sixth alternative point is that when we put labels on others, we're actually limiting our ability to relate to them, you know, openly, transparently, and flexibly. We sort of close our minds because this is what we expect from this person. And as a result of that, we fail then to explore possibilities, new possibilities, right? And that's not helpful. So what we're looking at here is the whole idea of taking a sort of more critical thinking approach to life, how we navigate life. Is more to open our minds to new possibilities. Don't shut off any area. Just let the information come in, then we can process it rather than build barriers before they even come in. We have no chance of evaluating what's happening. So that's there. And then going to 7, start with a clean sheet. All right. This is an important one. And we have issues with people pushing back against this. I know we work a lot with like team leaders, supervisors, and I say, for example, let us take another example. John is a good worker, so we don't want to fire him. Let us say he works in a machine shop, and he's good at repairing the machines, but he comes late, right? And the supervisors have a problem with that, because if we allow John to come late, what about the others? And yada yada yada. And so there's a scenario. John comes late, and the supervisor jumps at John, and I'm going to write you up, I'm going to do all sorts of things, in terms of punishing you. And the suggestion to them is just find out from John what happened today. No, Trevor, no, come on. I know what happened to John. John just wake up late. Why would I waste my time and ask John what it is? I'm saying, just ask. Just ask John. Hey, John, I notice you're not on time. Can you, explain what's happening here? Trevor, it's a waste of time, because I know why John, I'm here, I'm working with John for how long now? I'm saying to you, just ask. Just put up a clean sheet, a new sheet. It could be that today, just once out of the 100 times that he has been late, there's a genuine problem. It may be that right now his wife is in the hospital, and his mind is actually there now, but he had to try and come to work on time so that, you don't fire him or whatever it is. And so how insensitive you might come across then, that here it is that you're beating up on the man when, he is in a bind, his family, might be under pressure. Just ask. And so this whole principle of a clean sheet, taking a clean sheet to each incident, is a huge way forward in terms of interpersonal relations. Just take a clean sheet. Just ask. Just deal with, and don't bother with the history. Yeah. Somebody comes late. Why are they late? Just ask. You have nothing to lose. And also then, let's not go back. I think Philly talks about the history now, bringing back up the situation over and over and over again. Deal with this incident. What are we talking about here, today? No, not the fact that, yes, 4 months ago, something similar happened, or you did this, and 3 months ago, I did that, and we go back and forth. Deal with this. What are we talking about here today? What is the issue on the table today? This clean sheet thing is as important as the separating the behavior from the person. I can't emphasize, it's not easy. It's not easy, because again, you're going to say, but that's why God gave us the history. That's why we have memory. So I can go back and track all the things that have happened in the past. So I know I'm in a better position to know now that here's a trend, here's whatever. I hear all of that. But at least start from the point of looking at this issue and trying to get the facts around this particular incident. I don't know how to emphasize that anymore. But those are some of the things that I want to share. That's the 7 steps of the alternative. Want to especially now ask about your response to the clean sheet idea. Is it possible? Can normal human beings use a clean sheet approach to life? Comments?
It is possible. The first thing is one has to realize is in every situation that you're involved with the individual, what is in there for you, what is in there for the individual. And if you can identify that which is most relevant for you, then you will look beyond the personality, because the personality of any individual is something that changes to reflect the position and the time the person is interacting with anybody. And that is different from character. So the personality is what tends to reflect situations. So you need to look beyond that and see what you can derive or achieve from the situation. As you have said, separate the situation from the person.
Yep. Okay, thanks. All right. Anybody else?
Brother Smith,
Go ahead, Sister Monica.
one of the things that I have found to be most helpful is to admit, or to sometimes we don't look at ourselves, and to realize that in the same way persons do things to hurt us, annoy us, that we do things to hurt and annoy persons also. Sometimes they don't say anything,
Mhm.
and so we are not aware that we're annoying them. And sometimes they say something. And so what I do as much as possible is ask myself, if I was in that person's shoe, how would I want to be treated? Who am I annoying? How would I want them to treat me? And I think sometimes if we look at it from that perspective, then we find some better means of dealing with the situation. But sometimes all we can see is what is wrong in others,
Mhm.
and don't realize that sometimes a lot of persons are putting up with a lot of things that we are doing to them also.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, Sister, yeah, I'm going to go there actually. Um, relationships. It's a lot of mental work is there, and how we approach it. And sometimes, as you say, we're not aware. I'm going to use an example from, well, we use this in the workshop, and I'm going to use like myself. I remember as a little boy being taken on a visit by my mother, and the hostess gave me tomato juice to drink. I'm coming from an era in which, not like today, where I could just simply So I understood that I needed to take it and to drink it relatively quickly enough for the individual to ask me if I would like some more, so that, the impression would be given that Mrs. Smith's son, is well bred, that I have good manners, etc. No, I don't know if anybody knows drinks tomato juice and whether it would be an appropriate drink for a preteen. I don't think so, but I'm going somewhere with it, by the way, just give me a chance. But by the way, nowadays, I actually, sometimes if I were on a flight and they ask what I want to drink, I said tomato juice, because I want to remind myself that God give us sun, God give us rain, and sometimes we just have to just live with whatever it is. But the point is, though, where I want to go is that you have situations in which one or the other partner is living for years drinking tomato juice when orange juice is really what they want. but for the peace of mind and for the stability, all sorts of different things. They allow, they deny the orange juice and fail to ask for what it is that they want. This just, there are behavioral styles. You have people that have personalities that they feel challenged in certain situations to ask for what it is that they want. And that's where the problem is. I give you, and along the similar line, I'm using a metaphor for behavior. So you can see, again, I travel, I go and do workshops. So I'm staying with a friend, and you come home from a workshop, you're really tired, etc. And Thursday, you go into the fridge and you see Marby juice. Not my favorite. The next day you see another kind of juice. Not mine. And then, third day you say, something, stop, let us, stop at a supermarket. And I say, let me see if I can get some Malta or something like that. Is there wisdom in that? No. The smart thing would have been from the first day to say, hey, friend, I need some kind of, energy at the end, and I'd love to have some Malta or something like that. That doesn't happen in relationships as much as it should. Either in marriages, it's also it's a situation in the workplace where sometimes again individuals are afraid. And I just did a live class cast about dominant behavior, that people are afraid to speak up and to talk about what it is that they want. And as a result of that, we might be upsetting, annoying, frustrating individuals without ever knowing that that is the case, because the conversation doesn't take place. And that's one of the challenges that we have in terms of our interpersonal relations, is that do we create a climate, circumstances in which this kind of dialogue can take place? That's the frustration. And I see Rev, I'm coming to you in a minute, Rev. But also I want to put in context another area, which is in the church, is that sometimes it's very difficult to have these meaningful, transparent conversations in the church. Fact of life. All right, go ahead, Rev.
Yes, sir, Smith. One of the things we fail to realize in interpersonal relationships is that you will always have what you call conflicts. And nothing is wrong with conflicts, because it is simply one idea that the other person never thought of. And if the suggestion comes up, the person sees it in a different light, and each person is trying to put across his thinking or his perception. And when one feels that his perception should be the dominant, then this is where the unhealthy conflict comes in. But we cannot avoid conflicts because we are human beings, and we are always thinking and come up with ideas. It is how we look at them, the perception we have of the individual, that tends to want to color what the person has to say, is looking at what positive response we can glean to complement our first concept of whatever idea or thought we had.
Absolutely, absolutely. And part of it actually, unfortunately, goes to bias. So if I raise issues, ideas, that are not usual, not aligned to this thinking of, let us say, the person in charge, in short order, I'm going to be viewed as a troublemaker. There's no question at all about it, and sidelined. Yeah. let me let me actually go there, because you know, in workshops, in a workshop, there's a scenario that I present with just simply that, which is to try to demonstrate, for example, dominant behavior. So let us say I am in charge of the group here, I'm the boss, and I'm, you know, I'm presenting some ideas as to how we're going to go forward. And you know, Sherry, you know, raises her hand and she has an objection to one of the things that I'm saying that we want to do. No, but you know, but sir, this not a good idea. I go down another, you know, 2 sentences. Sherry is back up again, you know, countering the thing, and I'm thinking, wait, what's happening here? Sherry has just joined the organization. Look at how, you know, Monica not saying anything and she's a star. Look at how, you know, Alfonso, whoever it is on the line here, am I star? And they're not saying anything, but this newcomer putting up her hand and, you know, objecting to what it is that I'm putting out. And so by the third or so time that, you know, she interrupts and objects, I'm thinking that maybe her time with the organization might not be as long as she might be hoping. So that can be a mindset as well, because I have a bad approach to feedback. I want to control the environment. I really want people to just follow and comply with me, with whatever it is that I am putting forward. And in those circumstances, actually, that organization, wherever it is, whether it is business, church, whether it's not going to be as successful, because no one individual, you know, has all the wisdom. And so if you're not open to feedback, and if you're not willing to get other ideas and to be challenged, actually, then you're going to have problems. And so that's one labeling, that this is a non-compliant individual. Sherry is a difficult person. She is a troublemaker. And I label her, and even when peacefully and as calmly as she can, when she wants to raise a point, I'm going to say, again, and I'm going to be, you know, grating. I'm going to be upset by whatever it is that she brings to the table. And that, unfortunately, is how, for example, somebody could become a difficult person, or we could have challenging situations because of poor mindset in the first place, and an unwillingness to be able to take on board feedback, comments, etc. Clean sheet. Let's go. All right, Sherry, not you, okay? I know you're a peacemaker.
I know it's not me.
All right, okay. So I want to continue. I wanted to have a little quick conversation. This is almost like a commercial that I'm slipping in. Beg your pardon. But it's something that I've raised as well, is that whole question of leadership within the church, etc. It's a conversation that you want to have, because as I mentioned a while ago, some of the dialogue that should have, some of the openness, some of the comfort that people should have in order to be able to speak doesn't always happen. I'm not talking at the top necessarily now. I'm talking the middle areas. Who's in charge of the youth group? I remember years ago, there's a mighty tussle within the youth group and the leadership until, you know, at least 3 persons want to go. If we're going to do bus capella, this person want to go there. If this one, it was just a nightmare. And some of it has to do with leadership development. In other words, how do you actually lead people? How do you learn how to manage people? How do you communicate with people? And so I just wanted to have that conversation, because we do leadership development, and every organization is invested in their leaders, helping them, middle management, supervisors, to be better at leading people. And so this is not something that I just want to put on the table. And if you want, I don't want to spend any more time here, but if you go to church leadership, that's success with people at all. Church leadership, that's success with people at all. You can learn some more about it. Just want to have that conversation started in the church where we start to see how we can develop servant leaders in congregations so that they are better able at all levels, whether it is the ladies group, whether it is youth group, whether it is doorsteppers, whatever it is that we're doing, people need to have leadership skills. And so that's the thought. Let's go. So let me go back through this so that we can then have some more open dialogue. So we're looking at now this whole concept of this idea of labeling difficult people. And we are saying, let's not talk about the person as being difficult, but maybe the behavior, the actions. So we can find ourselves into difficult situations. We might have to have difficult conversations. But if we start to label the individual as being difficult, then we start to move down a channel that's not healthy, because it then opens up our mind, because a lot of what we think about comes from a subconscious level, where it's going to automatically mean, oh no, as you open your mic, as you put up your hand, I know, okay, all right, I hear it already. And I start to wince, I start to cringe, because I know what's coming. That's not healthy. So even when someone reaches out to you in a very simple, maybe peaceful thing, especially nowadays, when we actually share a lot of information by WhatsApp, so you're not seeing body language, you don't know whether the person is smiling or not, you just see some text. And when you read that text, your blood boil, you know. And so that's one of the things that we have to look at. I see Jennifer has a mic open. You want to say something? Jennifer? Maybe not aware. Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's one of the challenges that we have, you know, when we send in text messages, and it's even, you know, not even full sentences. We could actually open up a lot of problems because we have a mindset that, you know, this is coming from X or Y, and it, you know, it bodes no good. And so your reaction is, I think, you know, in a Bible class, Brother David was talking about a scenario where he felt as if, you know, there was a need to put somebody in a place. And that's it. The circumstances surrounding this thing can actually cause us to misinterpret what's happening, right? Jump to conclusions. All right. So we are saying separate the behavior from the person. That's a fundamental tenet of this new approach. We want to just look at the actions. And we want to look at this set of actions. It's not just looking at the actions from the, you know, separating it from the behavior, but we want to talk about incident by incident. So we want to look at this particular incident. What are we talking about today? No. What is the issue today? Yes, I know that maybe 50 examples of that before, but what are we talking about today? What is the issue today? That's critical, that, you know, we separate all the things. All right. So what is it about the behavior that upsets you? Break it out. Is this a logical, rational response? Find out. What is it about the behavior? You know, it's two important things why you want to find out what is the behavior. One is that you have clarity about what it is that upsets you. You can then speak to the person, hopefully, in a rational way as to fixing the situation. So if I understand why is it that, let me find an example, that I'm not getting the information from you on a timely basis, which is causing me to prepare my documents late. If I understand what is it about that scenario, then I can have dialogue with you with a hope to fixing it. That's one important reason why you want to know what is it that upsets you. And the other thing would be, if I understand what is it that upsets me, I might not be able to get the person to fix it, but I can learn to live with it. I know that this is annoying to me because of X, Y, Z. I can't fix it. I just have to learn coping measures, coping strategies. That when this thing happens, I know what it is. I distract myself. I do something so that the annoyance is reduced. That's important. So that is another reason why you really want to bring the thing down to behaviors and not just look at the person as a difficult person. The other thing would be to look at, is it unique? Is it just when Trevor does that you really get mad? Or not? Can Mary do it and get away with it? And if Mary does it and it doesn't upset you, what's happening with you then? Should you examine your motives? Is there something else about Trevor that is causing you to have an issue? Are you biased then against Trevor? It's a question to ask. And the big one that I say is that, is it something that you struggled with overcoming, whether it is in the past or present? Are you pointing, is the big finger pointing back at you? That's the question. 4 fingers back at you? In which case, is that why you're really so upset in that you cannot resolve the issue within yourself? And so when you see it in others, you're mad as much with yourself as with them. And again, we talk about the labeling and what the limitations that labeling places on you. And that once you start to label, then there are strictures that you place in on yourself, because you're just then limited to knee-jerk reactions, as against being able to sit, being able to listen, being able to evaluate, and being able to respond instead of just reacting. And then we talked about the clean sheet idea. All right, so those are the thoughts I want to put on the table. I want to leave some time to just have some open discussion in terms of what, if you have an idea of someone who you consider to be difficult, without calling any names, obviously, what is the challenge that you have with them? I want to open that up to dialogue. Anybody has a difficult person profile that they would want to share in code? Or generally, what kinds of behaviors do you find off-putting? I'm leaving the room open. And by the way, there is a whole series of different kinds of behaviors that people label as difficult. Some of them might surprise you. Maybe we have another session that we look at some, a list of so-called difficult people. But I want to keep it real. So anybody has a situation that they consider to be challenging, you don't want to call it difficult people again.
I have something I want to put in to say.
Go ahead, come in.
There are some people I know that things I am difficult to deal with. And I think they are difficult too. So I don't know where this falls. Let me give you a scenario, is that they'll say something to me and I said, but you knew that was wrong. Why did you do it? And I'll go back to point out some history. They don't want to hear that because they think I'm negative. So I am bringing history. But to me, it's not that I want to beat them over the head with something happened 2 years ago or something I've always pointed out that they never accepted, but no, it's in their face and they want me to just bypass it and fix something. Because usually when it's told to me something they're trying to, want me to help them to fix something that didn't go right, that went sideways. But I said, I told you this before I knew it would happen. And I know telling them that I knew it would happen is not a nice way to say it, but sometimes it jumps out of my mouth. So I have to be honest about it. But I said, see, this is exactly what I was trying to avoid. When I told you 8 months ago, this is, you should look out or be aware. This might be the consequence of you jumping like this right now. Now, is it wrong for me to point out history? Because
right.
you said that earlier, you have to be careful of history. Just deal with the present. But sometimes for me, the present directly goes back to something I've been saying all along. So how do I deal with that?
All right. So, Sister Carmen, you know that I want to keep it real, right? So,
Yes.
no offense. We don't want to talk about it. All right. So here I have some thoughts that I want to put on the table. One is the concept of a teachable moment. Yeah, a teachable moment. So,
Yeah. Yes.
if I have an issue now, I need assistance in addressing that issue now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go back to school. I want a solution. No, I don't. Yeah, you can take me back to school after you help me solve the problem. And so that's one of the things that I'm going to not hear you as well as I would like to hear you, because right now my challenge before me is to solve this problem, which is why I'm coming to you. And so in this moment, I'm not teachable.
Okay.
I'm not teachable. I can't hear you. I don't want to be lectured. I just want your help. When you have helped me, we can be in a moment where my mind is clear and the cortisol is not as much, in my brain. And then you can say to me, Trevor, listen now. All right. I didn't raise this thing to you when you had your issue, because I know that you were focused and I wanted to solve it. But here are some things going forward. It might be that I'm suggesting things to you, that you might take it on board a little bit more, and then you can do your lecture. You can give me history then. But right now, I can't hear you. Right now I'm saying to myself, you know something? I know that I shouldn't come and ask you, because all I'm going to get is this regurgitation of my history. But I suppose I was in a problem, and that is why I came. That's what happened in my mind when you're saying it. Yes, yes, I hear you. But what are we going to do about the problem that I'm having today? And sometimes that's what happens, why people push back, because they're not in a position right now to take on any learning. They just want help. I don't know if that is helpful, but reciting the history sometimes is not appropriate when there's something to be solved. Yeah. So that's why I'm calling it a teachable moment, that there are moments when someone is open to be taught, and there are sometimes when they're not. And usually when they're in a crisis and a problem, the teaching is not desired.
Well,
I don't know if that helps a little bit, but that is why people will be upset, and might actually push back and actually just don't come anymore, because they're not expecting a lecture. maybe they can't help it but to come. But it's gonna work a little bit better, I think, if you say, okay, fine, let's hear what it is. Let me see how we can work this out, and give some solid advice, and then see what happens afterwards. I don't know. That's my take on it. I don't know if that is helpful, but yeah.
I'm going to have to work on that personally from my standpoint, because I mean, I'm older, so I'm kind of set in my way, and I'm open to changes. This is why I listen to this program, because there have been many things I see that I've been doing wrong all along. So I'm trying to change. So this is why I'm asking a specific question. And you're saying, no, this is not the moment. Well, am I wrong if I say to them, you know, I really can't help you at this time? Even if I didn't stop to listen, I'm saying, I'm sorry, I don't want to listen to your problems now.
Why
Would
would
that
you
be,
do
would
that?
that be unkind if I say that?
Yes, I think, I don't know. And if you're really not in a place, so, well, why would you want to do that? They have come, they want to help, right? So I would want you to at least listen, and just listen. Yeah. So suppose you really, this thing is, you know, in your mind, look at this, I want this person about this, look at it, just keep yourself quiet. Don't bother say anything, just listen. Because people are coming to you, Rev, I see your hand. All right. Yeah. So they're going to ask you, just listen. Sometimes in just listening, sometimes people even want advice from you by just reciting their problem, etc. Sometimes they get an answer for themselves. So at least listen, just listen, but don't. It's not the right time really to be reciting history. I told you so. Would that help me? No.
Yeah, I know that they're right. That phrase is wrong. I don't want, I know I'm not supposed to say that, but sometimes it jumps out of my mouth. So I know that one is wrong, but I didn't think if I have to say to you, but remember last week I told you that. So I'm going to have to relearn this again. I don't know. I'm going to try because I really want to do differently to form better relationship, you know, so that I can get along with some people that I need to get along with. If I didn't need to, I wouldn't be asking. Other than that, I can just let people go.
Sure.
But it has to work.
All right. I'm going to suggest that some practice, some self-talk. We seriously just go over it, talk to yourself, because that's how we're going to train our minds, is talk about how it is that you should deal with these situations. Actually talk it out, talk to yourself, you know. And when when the person is coming or on the phone, remember now, come in, yeah. Remind yourself, seriously, go through that drill, because as you say, over the years you have built up a practice. What you want to do now is build up a new practice by talking and going over it all the time. All right?
Okay.
Right, go ahead. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. Go ahead.
If pouring salt into wound.
Yes, I must commend the sister, because of something that she said, she has a desire to do better. And I mean, that is a very, laudable moment right there. And I'm sending up some clapping hands right there in the chat. I must commend you for that. Highly, highly commend you for that. And may that be a desire for all of us. As she went through the scenario that she presented, I am thinking that one of the things that we have to be cautious of as well, and I'm thinking of myself as I say this, talking to my own heart, is that in perceiving others to be the difficult person, how we are treating with the scenario, we actually may be the difficult person in the scenario. We have to be conscious of things, and there's a psychology of self, understanding your own self, what ticks you, what motivates you, what moves you, what drives you, and how that understanding of self and others, it's called emotional intelligence in another circle, how that understanding of self and others can help us to be the nice little sounding board that others are looking for when they come to us for help, because that's what they're doing. It's a helping relationship that has been established. And I don't know how you perceive that, Trevor, but that's my concept. That's what comes to mind as we're looking through that a while ago.
Absolutely. Again, that's part of the thing that we're looking at, that, the conversation that they wanted to have about leadership, is that they actually do this assessment to understand self, because you have to understand self first before you can actually relate to others properly. Because all of us have, preconceived notions. We have a worldview, an approach to life. And we need to understand.
And biases.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we can actually relate effectively to others. And sometimes, and that's why we do, do behavioral assessments. You want to go down that one, because sometimes it's hidden. I have relationships. I talk to people who see themselves, in a particular light, and forget some of the unconscious behaviors that really are driving them. And so it's important, because if you not understand yourself deeply, you can actually have issues, and you find yourself in interpersonal conflict without even realizing why. Or maybe the conflict is just inner, because you just can't cope, but you don't want to say anything about it, so you're frustrated, and of course that can explode after a while. So conflict is not necessarily a confrontation. It could be that you're internalizing challenges. As I talked about earlier, the wife or the spouse who is effectively drinking tomato juice when orange juice is really what they want. That happens, and sometimes after a while it just explodes, and you don't even know why that is the case. So this is not a surface issue. This is something that requires thought, reflection, a lot of self-talk as well, in terms of trying to unwind, undo bad habits or difficult ways of thinking, faulty ways of thinking that we have had for years. So when we go through these sessions, that's part of what we're trying to do, is to unlock, is to have people at least stop for a moment and to say, am I approaching life in the right kind of way? Are there some other ways of thinking that I should bring to the core? Am I setting up myself for challenges, or setting up others for issues going forward? Is there some way that I can adjust some of these relationships, some of the dynamics in teams, dynamics at church, dynamics at the workplace? Can I make a difference by shifting my mindset? So those are some of the things that we wanted to look at. As I said, there are tons of difficult people scenarios. Might do another one on the first Saturday in July. Then, wow, year finished already. Right. So last word to anybody. I'm done here. I'm just wondering if one of the brothers can close us out. So thank you very much for your participation. Really appreciate it. Without you, the sessions don't go as well. And so that's my take, my shot. Anybody want to share any takeaways?
Yes, Sir Smith. We should treat each situation on its own merit and not the person or the personality at that point in time.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thanks, Sherry. Sherry says very informative. Yeah. This is a mega issue, trust me. If you just think about it, not all of our relationships go the way that we want to go. And we need to stop and reflect. All right. So we will be back the first Saturday in trying to find another lesson. First Saturday in July, and we probably will look at the same issue. All right, so let me, okay. What am I looking for? Share screen. 1 second, let me just make sure that I do my due diligence. All right, okay, so this session, the Nav Life series, brought to you by the St. Andrew Church of Christ. We worship tomorrow at 77 Red Hills Road, and we also have online worship using the same link, Zoom link. And then we have our Bible class immediately after service, and on Tuesday evening we have another Bible class session. Yeah, that's essentially Oh, I wanted to tell you that you can get the replay. Trying to find that. Not doing so well here. 1 second. 1 sec. It's Simply Christian JA, and it's on YouTube. Yeah, I don't have it. I'm sorry. It's on YouTube, and you can get all our sessions. I'm sorry. But you can also go to standardchurchofchrist.org to get the material. Simply Christians JA on YouTube and Facebook. You can get all the replays. All right. Thank you. That's it. I'm out. And I thank you very much for your participation today. Really appreciate it.
God bless you. Thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Okay, it's in the chat. YouTube, Simply Christian. Well, pretty much what I said, Simply Christians. Yeah. All right.
You stop playing music, Mr. Smith?
Yes, I get lazy.
Okay. You need to work on that because I like the music also.
I know. All right.
The acapella. I love the acapella.
Yes, I will do that. I promise the next session you will have before and after music. Promise.
All right. All right. Have a good night and take care.
All right. Thanks. Okay.